1. The Obsidian Oracle of Tezcatlipoca. Deep within the vaults of Mexico's National Museum of Anthropology lies an artifact so unsettling, curators rarely display it: the smoking mirror. A polished obsidian disc once held by Aztec high priests as the physical embodiment of Tezcatlipoca, the god of night, sorcery, and fate. Unlike ordinary mirrors, this object was never intended for vanity. According to codices preserved by Spanish scribes, the mirror was used in ritual scrying sessions, wherein chosen seers would enter trances and claim to witness not only events in distant lands, but visions of their own futures, often grim, always inevitable. Modern infrared scans in the 1990s revealed microscopic glyphs etched on the reverse side, unreadable by current linguists, arranged in concentric spirals that seemed to shift under polarized light. Witnesses who stood too long before it during restoration reported sudden vertigo, a sensation of being watched from within the glass, and in 2 documented cases, spontaneous weeping without emotional cause. The mirror's provenance traces back to the Templo Mayor in Tenochtitlan, where archaeologists found it buried beneath a sacrificial stone alongside human remains whose skulls bore unnatural cranial indentations, possibly from prolonged mirror gazing. Spanish conquistadors, notably Hernán Cortés himself, confiscated dozens of such obsidian mirrors, shipping many to Europe as curiosities. Only this one returned to Mexico under mysterious circumstances in 1938, accompanied by a sealed diplomatic note, now classified under national security protocols. Researchers from the Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México attempted a controlled experiment in 2007, placing volunteers before a replica while monitoring brainwave activity. EEG readings spiked in the precuneus, the brain region tied to self-perception and future simulation. Yet participants described not random hallucinations, but eerily specific scenes: a car crash on a road they'd never driven, a phone call from a dead relative, the exact moment of their own death. The study was abruptly terminated after 3 subjects suffered acute dissociative episodes. Even more troubling are accounts from indigenous elders in Oaxaca who claim the original mirror wasn't made by human hands at all, but gifted by star beings who warned that gazing into it too often fractures the soul's timeline. The mirror remains officially restricted. Viewing requires 3 levels of academic clearance and a signed liability waiver. Yet whispers persist among esoteric circles that a private collector in Geneva now possesses a sister artifact, one that doesn't just show your future, but allows you to speak to it. And that conversation, they say, always ends the same way, with your future self begging you not to look again. 2. The Vatican's Speculum Veritatis. Tucked within the labyrinthine corridors of the Vatican's secret archives, beyond the publicly acknowledged chambers and past the triple-locked iron door guarded by Swiss-trained custodians, rests an object referenced only in coded marginalia from 14th century papal inventories: the Speculum Veritatis, or Mirror of Truth. Unlike any ecclesiastical relic, this artifact is described not as a devotional object, but as a weapon of spiritual discernment, allegedly commissioned by Pope Boniface VIII during the height of his conflict with King Philip IV of France. According to fragmented confessional logs discovered beneath a collapsed wing of the Lateran Palace in 1982, the mirror was used to interrogate suspected heretics, not through torture, but through reflection. Accused individuals were made to stand before it for precisely 7 minutes. If they were guilty of deceit, the mirror would allegedly reveal not their faces, but the moment of their moral transgression, replayed in silent, ghostly motion. More unnerving are the testimonies of clergy who used it voluntarily.
One cardinal, writing under the pseudonym Servus Lucis in 1512 manuscript, now held in the Bibliotheca Apostolica, confessed that after gazing into the Speculum during Lent, he saw himself decades hence, kneeling before an empty throne in a ruined St. Peter's Basilica, whispering a foreign prayer in a language that had no name. The Vatican has never confirmed the mirror's existence, but declassified correspondence between Pius XII and British intelligence in 1943 reveals frantic efforts to relocate the silver disc of Clementine provenance as Allied bombing neared Rome. Its last known location was the Castel Gandolfo estate, though in 2009 a former archivist, later found dead in the Tiber with no signs of struggle, left behind a coded journal entry referencing the mirror now sealed in room Theta, wrapped in the shroud of Saint Veronica. Independent researchers have noted that several popes in the last century avoided reflective surfaces in official ceremonies, with John Paul II famously refusing to be photographed near mirrors during his later years. Infrared satellite imagery from 2015, leaked by a disillusioned Vatican astronomer, showed anomalous thermal signatures emanating from a sub-basement beneath the Apostolic Palace, consistent with a small, continuously cooling metallic object. The Catholic Church maintains that any such artifacts are mere allegorical symbols, yet internal canon law still contains a rarely invoked clause, Canon Mirabilis 89, which forbids any cleric from gazing into a man-made surface that speaks in the voice of tomorrow. If the Speculum Veritatis exists, it remains one of the most tightly guarded secrets in Christendom, not because it proves God's existence, but because it might prove that time, fate, and free will are illusions carefully maintained by those who know what lies beyond reflection.
3. The Black Glass of Rhylia. In 1927, marine salvage diver Elias Thorne vanished off the coast of Point Dume, California, after radioing a frantic, barely coherent message about a city of angles and a mirror that breathes. His vessel, the Marianne's Resolve, was found adrift 2 days later, its deck scoured clean of rust and salt, as if time itself had been scrubbed from its surface. Among the few items recovered was a shard of obsidian black glass, 18 inches tall, unnaturally cold to the touch, and etched with spiraling glyphs that defied linguistic categorization. Thorne's logbook, waterlogged but legible, described how his team had discovered a submerged structure at a depth of 1,200 feet. Walls fused at impossible geometries, corridors that seemed to shift when not directly observed, and at its center, a full-length mirror framed in what he called bone metal. He wrote that when he looked into it, he didn't see his own reflection, but a version of himself clad in tattered robes, standing in a desert of black sand beneath twin suns as the sky tore open. The glass shard was confiscated by U.S. Naval Intelligence and classified under Project Nightglass, a Cold War-era initiative to assess anomalous materials with potential psychological warfare applications. Declassified documents from 1963 reveal that when placed in a room with test subjects, the shard induced shared hallucinations. Multiple observers independently described the same future event, a global blackout on October 17, 2025, followed by mass disappearances. That date now looms with eerie proximity. Further analysis at Los Alamos in 1978 detected quantum entanglement properties within the glass matrix, suggesting it might be linked to another location or another timeline. Most disturbing is the testimony of Dr. Helen Marsh, a parapsychologist assigned to the project, who claimed the mirror fragment learned from observers.
After repeated exposure, subjects began dreaming in a non-Euclidean language, and their sketches of the other self became increasingly consistent: gaunt, elongated figures with too many joints, eyes like polished onyx, whispering coordinates to a place in the South Pacific. Oceanographic surveys near 47 degrees 9 minutes S, 126 degrees 43 minutes west, coordinates scribbled by over a dozen test subjects before they were institutionalized, revealed anomalous seabed topography matching no known tectonic formation. Local Polynesian legends speak of Te Puna Aurailia, the well of echoing selves, a forbidden trench where drowned gods show men what they will become if they listen to the deep. The U.S. government officially closed Project Nightglass in 1981, citing unverifiable phenomena and unacceptable psychological risk. Yet satellite thermal imaging from 2022 shows a covert deep-sea facility operating precisely at those coordinates, funded under a black budget flagged only as Mirror Division. The original shard is presumed stored there, still cold, still whispering, still showing those who dare to look a future where humanity is not the observer, but the reflection.
4. The Phantom Mirror of Versailles. In the private chambers of Marie Antoinette, hidden behind a false panel adjacent to her boudoir, artisans discovered during a 2003 restoration a small oval mirror framed in tarnished silver, its surface so perfectly reflective it seemed to absorb light rather than return it. Unlike the ornate, gilded mirrors adorning the Hall of Mirrors, this one bore no decorative flourishes, only a single inscription along its base in faded Cyrillic. The uvidish što stanish, you will see what you will become. Court records from 1785, long dismissed as the paranoid scribblings of a disgraced chambermaid, claimed the Queen consulted this mirror nightly in secret, often emerging pale and trembling, muttering about the woman in white standing beside the guillotine. Modern spectral analysis revealed trace residues of belladonna and henbane on the glass, substances known to induce vivid prophetic visions when combined with sensory deprivation. But the true anomaly emerged in 2017 when French historian Dr. Laurent Moreau gained rare access to photograph the artifact. His digital images, when processed to high-frequency edge detection algorithms, revealed faint overlays in every shot, a shadowy figure standing just behind the photographer's shoulder, always in period clothing, always with the same scar across the left cheek. Moreau, who had no such scar, grew increasingly disturbed as the figure began appearing in unrelated photos he took weeks later, even in images captured in his Paris apartment. He vanished in 2018. His last journal entry read, "She's not in the mirror is in her." The mirror itself has a deeper lineage. Archival research uncovered correspondence between Tsarina Elizabeth of Russia and Louis XV, discussing the gift of a future-seeing glass sent from St. Petersburg in 1758, possibly looted from a Siberian shamanic tomb. Russian folklore speaks of Zerkalo Sudbi, or Mirror of Fate, crafted from ice that never melts and said to show the moment of one's death if gazed upon at midnight during a blood moon. During the French Revolution, Revolutionary Guards reportedly tried to smash the Versailles mirror with bayonets. The glass remained unscathed, but every soldier involved died within a year under mysterious circumstances: 3 by suicide, 2 by accidental falls, 1 reportedly drowning in 2 inches of bathwater. Today, the mirror is kept in a climate-controlled vault beneath the Louvre, accessible only to a select cadre of historians who must sign waivers acknowledging
temporal disorientation as a known risk. Security footage from 2021 shows the mirror's surface rippling for 13 seconds during a power surge, during which time the reflection of the empty room showed candles lit, curtains drawn, and a woman in an 18th century gown slowly turning to face the camera before the feed cut to static. The French government insists it's a glitch, but conservators refuse to clean it. They say the dust on its surface isn't theirs. It belongs to someone who hasn't been born yet, or someone who died centuries ago, still waiting to be seen.
5. The Cursed Glass of Count Saint-Germain. Among the most enigmatic figures of the Enlightenment, the elusive Count Saint-Germain was rumored to possess not only the secret to eternal life, but also a suite of arcane artifacts capable of bending time itself. Chief among these was his so-called Chronos mirror, a handheld disc of alchemically treated silver glass said to allow its user to witness pivotal moments in their personal future. Unlike ordinary scrying tools, this mirror didn't conjure symbols or metaphors. It showed literal scenes, down to the stitching on a coat or the brand of a pocket watch yet to be manufactured. Diaries from high society salons in 1760s Paris recount guests fainting after glimpses into the Count's mirror, overwhelmed by visions of war, plague, or betrayal decades before they occurred. Most chilling was the testimony of Princess Marie-Louise of Baden, who, after a single glance, described in perfect detail the 1809 Battle of Wagram, down to the precise location where her future husband would fall from a cannonball wound. She died in 1811, never having visited Austria. The mirror vanished with the Count himself around 1784, but resurfaced in 1902 in the estate of occultist Aleister Crowley, who claimed to have acquired it from a Romanian prince whose family had guarded it for generations to contain its hunger. Crowley's personal notes, encrypted in Enochian cipher and deciphered only in 2015, revealed that the mirror didn't merely show the future, it fed on attention. Each viewing, he wrote, tightened the noose of causality, making the seen outcome increasingly inevitable. Worse, prolonged use caused the viewer's reflection to begin moving independently, smiling when the user frowned, stepping closer when the user retreated. Crowley attempted to destroy it by submerging it in the Thames, but it reappeared on his writing desk 3 mornings later, dry and gleaming, with a new scene already playing in its depths. His own corpse floating in that same river. The artifact disappeared again during World War II, possibly seized by Nazi occult division Ahnenerbe, who were obsessed with Saint-Germain's supposed ties to the Aryan master race. Declassified OSS files from 1945 mention a silver disc of temporal influence recovered from a bunker in Berchtesgaden, but it was never logged into Allied inventories. In 2009, a mirror matching its description was anonymously donated to the Musée des Arts Ferrants in Paris, accompanied by a note in 18th century French: "He who looks shall become what he sees." Museum staff reported that overnight, security cameras captured the mirror's reflection, showing rooms as they appeared in 1923, despite the building not existing then. When conservators attempted to move it, 2 suffered acute temporal dysphoria, insisting they were still in the salon while physically standing in a modern warehouse. The mirror was subsequently sealed in a lead-lined case and buried beneath the museum's foundation. Yet urban explorers swear that on foggy nights, if you press your ear to the courtyard stones, you can hear faint whispers,
and the sound of glass being gently tapped from the other side.
6. The sealed mirror of room 317. In 1978, during routine renovations at the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado, a location already steeped in paranormal lore, construction workers broke through a false wall in what was listed on blueprints as room 317, a space that officially didn't exist. Inside, they found a small, windowless chamber lined with lead sheeting and copper mesh, as if designed to block electromagnetic fields. At its center stood an ornate floor-length mirror, its frame carved from blackened oak and inlaid with symbols resembling pre-Columbian star charts. The glass itself was ice-cold despite the room's ambient temperature, and emitted a faint hum detectable only on analog recording equipment. Hotel logs from the 1920s, uncovered in a water-damaged ledger, revealed that room 317 was rented exclusively to a reclusive guest who paid in gold sovereigns and never left. Yet staff reported hearing two voices arguing nightly, one deep and weary, the other eerily childlike. The guest's name was redacted, but his signature matched that of famed physicist Nikola Tesla, who was known to have stayed at the Stanley in 1912 while researching resonant frequencies of human consciousness. When paranormal investigators from the American Society for Psychical Research gained access in 1981, they placed motion-activated cameras in the room. Footage showed the mirror's surface rippling like liquid during thunderstorms, and on 3 occasions, figures stepping out of the glass, always blurred, always retreating when the camera light activated. More disturbing were the audio logs. Layered beneath white noise were voices speaking in reverse, including one clearly identifiable as Tesla himself, repeating, "Do not let it show you the convergence." In 1995, a guest ignoring staff warnings entered the sealed room during a power outage and gazed into the mirror by candlelight. He was found catatonic, eyes wide open, pupils fully dilated, muttering a repeating sequence of numbers, 2025, 1206. When researchers cross-referenced the date, December 6, 2025, they found no historical significance. Yet astronomical databases note a rare planetary alignment that day, and the U.S. Strategic Command has quietly increased satellite monitoring over the Rocky Mountains in anticipation. The mirror was removed by federal agents in 2001 under a national security directive citing chronometric instability. It's now housed in a subterranean facility beneath Cheyenne Mountain, where it's monitored 24/7 by AI trained to detect anomalous reflections. Leaked internal memos describe incidents where personnel saw themselves in the mirror wearing military uniforms from a future war, or worse, standing among ruins, holding the mirror, watching themselves watch themselves in an infinite regress. The room at the Stanley was bricked up, but guests still report hearing faint knocking from behind the wall, and on stormy nights, the elevator inexplicably stops at floor 3, doors opening to reveal a corridor that doesn't exist, ending in a mirror that shows you walking toward it from the other side.
7. The glass that swallowed time in Shanghai. In the shadow of the Bun's colonial-era facades, beneath a derelict textile warehouse in Shanghai's Hongkou district, Chinese Public Security Bureau officers uncovered in 2011 what they initially believed to be a Cold War listening post. Instead, they found a circular chamber lined with mercury-coated tiles and centered on a freestanding mirror, a flawless, smoky quartz, its frame forged from an alloy of tungsten and an unknown metallic element that defied spectral analysis. Local records, pieced together from fragmented municipal archives, traced the site to a clandestine laboratory operated by Japanese Unit 731 during the 1940s, though the mirror itself bore no imperial insignia. Instead, its edge was inscribed with a single phrase in classical Chinese, quote, 此镜实时, 慎勿凝视. This mirror consumes time. Do not gaze. End quote. Surviving testimony from a former Unit 731 technician, interviewed under heavy sedation in 2003, described how prisoners were forced to stare into the glass for hours as part of temporal endurance trials. Many aged decades in minutes, others vanished entirely, leaving only their uniforms collapsed on the floor. One subject, a 24-year-old student, reportedly reappeared 40 years later in 1984, still 24, claiming he had walked out of the mirror into a Shanghai that didn't recognize him, where skyscrapers pierced clouds and people carried glowing slates in their hands. He died 3 days later of acute cellular necrosis, his body exhibiting radiation burns consistent with exposure to chronotin particles, a theoretical byproduct of time distortion. After the 2011 discovery, Chinese authorities quarantined the site and classified all findings under State Secret Grade 1. Yet, in 2019, a whistleblower inside the Shanghai Institute of Applied Physics leaked thermal imaging data showing the mirror's surface maintaining a consistent temperature of minus 273.14 degrees Celsius, just above absolute zero, despite being stored at room temperature. More alarming was footage from a hidden camera. When left unattended for 12 hours, the mirror's reflection began to diverge from reality. Furniture shifted position, clocks ran backward, and at precisely 3:33 a.m., the reflection showed an empty room, except for a figure standing motionless, facing the glass, wearing a modern PLA uniform with insignia from a military branch that doesn't exist. Attempts to move the mirror triggered localized time dilation. Two technicians aged 7 years in a single afternoon, their hair whitening, skin wrinkling, while their wristwatches stopped at the exact moment they touched the frame. The mirror is now entombed in a Faraday-shielded vault beneath the Pudong Science Complex, surrounded by cesium atomic clocks to monitor temporal fluctuations. Yet, urban legends persist among Shanghai taxi drivers. Late at night, if you drive past the old warehouse, your rearview mirror might flicker and for a split second show not your car, but a silent street filled with people in 1940s attire, all staring up at your vehicle with hollow eyes. And if you look too long, they start waving, urging you to stop.
8. The Mirror of the Hollow Earth Sect. Deep within the Ozark Mountains of Missouri, in a cave system long dismissed as folklore, federal agents raided a clandestine compound in 1994 belonging to the Children of Telos, a fringe esoteric group claiming descent from survivors of Atlantis who fled into a vast subterranean world. Among the confiscated items was a circular mirror forged from meteoric iron and polished obsidian, known to the sect as the Eye of Agartha. According to their doctrine, the mirror didn't reflect the present, but the true surface of Earth, a paradisiacal inner realm where time flows backward and humanity's future self resides in a perfected form. Converts were required to undergo the gazing as an initiation rite, 40 minutes alone before the mirror in total darkness. Most emerged ecstatic, claiming to have spoken with their higher self and received instructions for the Great Return. But declassified FBI psychological evaluations revealed a darker pattern. Initiates began exhibiting obsessive behaviors centered on specific future dates, particularly December 21, 2012, when they believed the inner sun would align with the surface, opening a portal through mirrors worldwide. When that date passed uneventfully, the group splintered. Yet in 2017, spelunkers exploring a newly exposed cavern near the original raid site discovered the mirror reinstalled on a stone altar, surrounded by fresh candles and journals written in a cipher blending Enochian script and binary code.
One journal detailed how the mirror now showed not utopia, but a desolate inner earth, cities in ruins, skies choked with ash, and figures in tattered robes dragging mirrors like coffins through the dust. The most chilling entry read, "They tried to escape through the glass. Now they're stuck between, and they're knocking." Scientific analysis conducted by DARPA in 2018 under Project Threshold found the mirror's surface contained microfractures aligned to Earth's magnetic field lines, and, when exposed to infrasound at 7.83 Hz, the Schumann resonance, it emitted low-frequency pulses that induced vivid shared hallucinations in test subjects. All described the same vision, standing in a mirrored corridor, stretching infinitely in both directions, each reflection slightly older or younger, until one version stepped out and whispered, "You're the last one who can close the door." The mirror was subsequently entombed in a titanium cask and buried 2,000 feet below the Nevada test site. But former cult members, now scattered across the country, report that any mirror left uncovered at midnight during a lunar eclipse will briefly show the same desolate inner world. And if you touch the glass while it's active, your reflection won't pull away when you do. It stays, watching, waiting for you to come back.
9. The Quantum Mirror of Project Looking Glass. Buried beneath the White Sands Missile Range in New Mexico, within a bunker codenamed Chamber Theta, the U.S. Department of Defense allegedly operated a classified program from 1978 to 1986 known as Project Looking Glass, a direct, though unacknowledged, offshoot of the earlier Philadelphia experiment. Unlike conventional surveillance, Looking Glass purportedly harnessed quantum entanglement and torsion field physics to create a real-time visual interface with probable futures. At its core was a device referred to in internal memos as the chronoptic mirror, a 3-meter-tall array of rotating crystalline lenses suspended in a magnetic vacuum, capable of resolving probabilistic timelines into coherent visual projections. Whistleblower Andrew Basiago, whose claims have never been independently verified but align eerily with declassified DARPA funding streams, described witnessing live footage of the 9/11 attacks in 1980 down to the flight numbers and crash angles projected onto the mirror's surface during a routine calibration test. Project scientists allegedly dismissed it as a low-probability anomaly until similar visions of the Oklahoma City bombing and the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami appeared with increasing clarity years in advance. The mirror didn't show a single future, but a branching lattice of possibilities, each fading or intensifying based on real-time global decisions. Most disturbing was its capacity for feedback. Observers reported that merely noticing a catastrophic timeline seemed to increase its probability, a phenomenon researchers termed the witness effect. Internal reports from 1983 detail a test subject who, after viewing a nuclear exchange between India and Pakistan in 2025, became obsessed with preventing it. He leaked false intelligence to multiple agencies, inadvertently triggering diplomatic crises that brought the world closer to the very war he sought to avoid. The project was shuttered in 1986 after a catastrophic incident. During a simulation of a near-Earth asteroid impact, the mirror's field destabilized, causing 17 personnel to experience chronal displacement. 3 vanished entirely, 7 aged 30 years in seconds, 6 suffered irreversible neural fragmentation, endlessly reliving fragments of futures that never came to pass. The mirror was disassembled and its core components sealed in separate lead-lined vaults across the country. Yet anomalous energy signatures matching its quantum signature were detected in 2021 by the Very Large Array near Socorro, pulsing at intervals that correspond to major geopolitical flashpoints. Even more unsettling, former project physicist Dr. Elena Voss, in a 2023 affidavit filed under the Freedom of Information Act, claimed the mirror was never destroyed. "It's still running," she wrote. "Not as a machine, but as a resonance.
Every time someone truly believes they've seen their future, in a dream, a déjà vu, a hallucination, they're actually tuning into the residual field of looking glass. And the more we look, the more the future looks back. Satellite thermal scans from late 2024 show recurring heat blooms beneath white sands precisely on dates later marked by global black swan events. The government denies everything, but deep in the desert, the sand still hums at night. And if you listen closely, you might hear your own voice years from now, warning you not to trust what you see in the glass.
10. The mirror that shows no one. In a climate-controlled vault beneath the British Library, encased in triple-layered borosilicate glass and monitored by biometric sensors, rests the final artifact on our list. An unassuming hand mirror discovered in 1901 during the excavation of a Neolithic burial mound in Orkney, Scotland. Its frame, carved from mammoth ivory and inset with lapis lazuli, dates to at least 12,000 BCE, long before mirrors existed in human culture. But it's the glass itself that defies explanation. Made not of obsidian, metal, or silica, but a substance spectrographically identical to nothing on Earth, it reflects light perfectly, yet shows no reflection of the person holding it. Instead, the surface remains empty, a flawless rendering of the room behind you, as if you simply aren't there. Early 20th century anthropologists dismissed it as a trick of polished stone, but modern laser interferometry confirms the surface is optically flat to within a nanometer. The first documented anomaly occurred in 1919 when curator Alistair Finch, alone in the conservation lab, reported seeing his own hands vanish as he cleaned the frame, yet his body remained fully visible in all other mirrors. Over the decades, controlled tests revealed a chilling consistency. Anyone who gazes into it for more than 47 seconds begins to experience ontological decoupling. Their voice echoes slightly out of sync. Their shadow lags, and eventually, to observers, they flicker, like a signal losing reception. In 1987, during a classified experiment involving temporal perception, a volunteer named Dr. Miriam Cho stared into the mirror for 3 minutes and 12 seconds. She didn't vanish, but when she turned around, her colleagues saw nothing. No body, no clothing, only the empty space where she stood. Yet her voice continued, clear and calm, saying, "I can still see you. Why can't you see me?" Audio recordings captured her for 17 more minutes before the signal cut out. She was never found. The mirror's most terrifying property emerged in 2005 when AI-enhanced facial recognition software analyzed security footage of people viewing it. The system consistently flagged the space before the mirror as containing 0 human subjects, even when multiple staff were visibly present. It wasn't that the mirror failed to reflect, it excluded the viewer from reality itself. Ancient Pictish cave markings near the excavation site depict robed figures holding circular objects, their bodies rendered as hollow outlines. One glyph, translated tentatively as "the glass that unmakes," shows a man stepping into his own reflection and dissolving. Today, the mirror is never handled directly. Robotic arms clean it, drones monitor it, and no human is permitted within 10 meters without neural inhibitors. Yet rumors circulate in academic circles that certain dreams, particularly those of standing before a mirror while your loved ones walk through you like mist, may be psychic bleed-through from its field. The British government classifies it under Existential Anomaly Tier Omega, and internal protocols state that in the event of a containment breach, the entire building must be evacuated and sealed for 72 hours. Because if the mirror shows you that you're not there, what happens when you start believing it? And more importantly, what happens when everyone else stops seeing you too?